The Steam Deck JRPG library goes way deeper than the fan favorites everyone recommends. I'm talking PS1 and PS2 classics that flopped on release but are straight up excellent. 15 of them, all available right now. Some never left Japan until recently. Some got sabotaged by terrible timing. All worth your time. Here we go. All right, starting strong with La Pucelle Ragnarok. This is Nippon Ichi's forgotten child. And honestly, that's tragic because this came out before Disgaea. Yeah, before the Prinnies, before the item world, there was this game about a demon hunter named Prier who's trying to become the Maiden of Light, but ends up becoming a demon lord instead. The irony writes itself. Here's what makes it special. The purification mechanic is wild. You're converting enemies mid-battle to your side, but there's this whole dark energy flow system on the map. You redirect these energy streams by facing your characters in specific directions, and if you create a closed loop, boom, you cast a miracle that nukes everything inside. It's like tactical Sudoku mixed with demon conversion. The tragedy, it released right before Disgaea absolutely dominated, so everyone just forgot about it. And then the PSP version with all the extra content never came west for over a decade. The Steam version finally has the Overlord Prier scenario, where you play the Dark timeline, and it's verified on deck. If you like NIS games but only know Disgaea, you owe it to yourself to see where it all started. Okay, speaking of dark timelines, Soul Nomad is the game that asks, what if you just said yes to the devil on your shoulder? You've got this demon named Gig fused to your soul, and he's constantly pushing you to embrace chaos and destruction. The first playthrough is a fairly standard resist evil, save the world story, but then you unlock the demon path. Oh man, the demon path. This is one of the most disturbing storylines in JRPG history. You literally become a genocidal tyrant. You kill or enslave your entire party, characters you spent hours bonding with. There's a scene where you can eat the final boss. It's unflinching, it's brutal, and it's absolutely fascinating from a narrative perspective. Most JRPGs won't let you be truly evil, but Soul Nomad commits to the bit. Mechanically, it uses this squad system where you build units called rooms with multiple characters in formation, front, middle, back row. Think Ogre Battle meets Disgaea. The voice acting is phenomenal too. Yuri Lowenthal as Gig is just chewing scenery the entire time. Why'd it flop? Released late in the PS2 lifecycle when everyone had moved to the 360 and PS3. It's playable on deck, and if you want a JRPG that actually respects your agency to be a monster, this is it. Let's pivot to something lighter. Well, mechanically lighter. Emotionally, Phantom Brave will wreck you. You play as Marona, this young girl who can see ghosts, and society treats her like she's cursed. She's literally called the Possessed One and ostracized by everyone. She works as a mercenary just to afford rent. It's heartbreaking. But here's the hook. Phantom Brave throws out the grid entirely. Characters move in a circular radius, completely freeform. And you don't summon units from a base. You bind phantom souls to objects on the battlefield. Bind a warrior to a rock, high defense, low speed. Bind them to a flower, magic boost, fragile as hell. Every environmental object becomes a tactical tool. The tragedy here is twofold. One, the protection mechanic where enemies are invincible until you destroy a specific object frustrated a lot of players who just wanted to brawl. Two, it released in 2004, right alongside Metal Gear Solid 3 and Halo 2. An artsy, emotional, tactical RPG about a ghost-seeing orphan didn't stand a chance. It's playable on deck, and NIS just announced a sequel for 2025, so now's the perfect time to catch up. Moon is the anti-RPG, released in Japan in 1997, but not localized until 2020. 23 years late, you play as a kid who gets sucked into an RPG after the so-called hero has already devastated the world. And the game frames this hero as a psychopath. He raids people's homes, kills innocent animals for XP, and leaves a trail of destruction. Your job? Clean up his mess. You gain love by catching the souls of these murdered monsters and observing the daily routines of NPCs to help them. There's no combat, none. It's about empathy, restoration, and questioning why we do the things we do in RPGs. Why do we loot every house? Why do we slaughter wildlife for levels? Toby Fox has openly said Moon was a primary inspiration for Undertale, and you can see the DNA everywhere. The visual style is this mix of claymation and 2D sprites that feels like a fever dream. The soundtrack is hypnotic. It's one of the most unique experiences in the genre. Why'd we miss it? Sony never bothered to localize it back in the PS1 era. By the time Onion Games brought it west in 2020, it was this obscure cult artifact that only hardcore JRPG historians knew about. It's playable on deck, and if you loved Undertale or just want something that challenges what an RPG can be, Moon is essential. Saga Frontier Remastered. It's chaos in the best way. You pick one of 7 protagonists, scratch that, 8 now, and each one has a completely different story and genre. Red is in a tokusatsu superhero story. T260G is a sci-fi robot mystery. Blue is a dark fantasy mage trying to kill his twin brother. They don't connect. They're just wildly different games crammed into one package. The hook is the glimmer system, also called sparking. Characters randomly learn new abilities mid-battle when using weapons. You're just swinging a sword, and suddenly, flash of light, your character invents a devastating new technique on the spot. It's this emergent moment of hype that modern JRPGs with fixed skill trees can't replicate. Here's the tragedy and the redemption story. The original PS1 release was unfinished. They cut an entire character, Fuse, due to time constraints. For 24 years, the game felt incomplete. The remaster finally adds Fuse's scenario, which acts as a detective story tying together all the loose threads from the other 7 campaigns. It's like finding the missing puzzle piece a quarter-century later. The Saga series has a reputation for being obtuse and inaccessible, but Frontier is actually the friendliest entry point. It's verified on deck, has speed boosters, and New Game Plus lets you carry stats between scenarios. If you've been intimidated by Saga, start here. Game 6. Makai Kingdom Reclaimed and Rebound. You play as a book. No, seriously. Overlord Zeta accidentally destroys his own netherworld and seals his soul in the sacred tome to survive. The entire game is about a screaming, arrogant book trying to rebuild his empire. It's as absurd as it sounds, and it's glorious. The combat system breaks the NIS mold. Instead of creating generic units, you make a wish to the sacred tome to spawn characters. You can summon vehicles, tanks, mechs, UFOs, and have your units pilot them mid-battle. There's a facility system where you drop buildings like hospitals onto the battlefield, and destroying them yields bonuses. It's chaotic, creative, and rewards experimentation. Zeta himself is voiced by Crispin Freeman, and he's just screaming with arrogance the entire time. The script is legitimately the funniest in NIS's catalog. His dynamic with Pram, the Oracle, who constantly trolls him, is comedy gold. Why did bomb? Released in 2005, deep into the PS2's twilight years. By then, the market had moved on, and a niche tactical RPG about a book didn't exactly scream mass appeal. The Steam version includes the PSP's PETA mode, where you play as Zeta's daughter that was Japan exclusive for years. It's playable on deck, and the English voice cast is genuinely better than the Japanese, which is rare. Remember when Pokemon had competition? Monster Rancher was the other monster-raising game in the late 90s, and it had this wild gimmick where you generated monsters by inserting random CDs into your PlayStation. Different albums created different creatures. Kids were raiding their parents' CD collections just to see what monster Nirvana or Backstreet Boys would spawn. The DX version replaces the physical CD mechanic with a digital database. You can search for any album or artist, and it'll generate a monster based on the metadata. Type in Taylor Swift, boom, unique monster.
Monster Rancher itself, that spawns Machi, the franchise mascot. But here's the gut punch. Monsters die of old age, permadeath. You raise this creature, bond with it, win tournaments together, and then it just passes away. The game holds a funeral. It's emotionally devastating in a way Pokemon never was. You're not collecting, you're raising a life with a finite lifespan. The tragedy is it competed directly with Pokemon and lost. Game Freak's behemoth swallowed the market whole. By the time Monster Rancher 2 refined the formula, the window had closed. The DX collection has remained a niche title on Steam. We're talking in the ballpark of 20,000 to 50,000 copies sold according to tracking data. It's playable on deck, and the fast forward button makes the week-by-week training much less tedious. If you want something that'll make you feel things Pokemon won't, this is it.
Legend of Mana is what happens when you give Square's art team complete creative freedom and zero obligation to make sense. It's a non-linear experiment where you literally build the world. The land make system gives you artifacts, a mailbox, a wheel, a sword, and you place them on a blank map grid. Where you position them determines mana levels, shop inventories, enemy strength, and which story events trigger. There's no set path. You can complete the 3 main arcs, the Jumi Gemstone Hunters, the Dragon Emperor, the Escad Matilda feud, in any order, or ignore them completely and just vibe with the crafting systems. Speaking of which, the tempering system for weapons is absurdly deep, but the game explains exactly none of it. You need external guides to even scratch the surface. Visually, it's stunning. Hand-drawn watercolor backgrounds that look like a storybook exploded onto your screen. On the Steam Deck OLED, it's legitimately one of the prettiest games in the library. The soundtrack by Yoko Shimomura is hauntingly beautiful. Why did it flop? Opacity. The game is impenetrable without a guide. And in 2000, GameFAQs was still clunky. Casual players bounced off it hard. The remaster is verified on deck, adds widescreen support, and includes the Ring Ring Land minigame that required the rare Japanese Pocket Station peripheral. If you want something cozy, experimental, and utterly unique, this is it.
Game 9, Hack GUU Last Recode. This is the single-player MMO simulator, and it nails the vibe of mid-2000s internet culture in a way that's genuinely eerie. You play as Haseo, logging into a fictional MMO called The World, but you can log out to an emulated desktop, check evals, browse forums, watch news clips about the real world collapsing due to a digital virus. The immersion is unmatched. It's a game within a game within a game. Haseo starts as a PKK, player killer killer. He's toxic, edgy, hunting the player who killed his friend Shino and put her in a coma IRL. His character arc from antisocial jerk to genuine leader is one of the best in JRPGs. The story tackles AI sentience and the blurring line between digital and physical existence, which feels even more relevant now. Combat is action RPG with a job extension system. Haseo swaps weapons on the fly, dual blades, broadswords, scythe, and the remaster runs at 60 FPS, making it feel snappy. The collection includes the original trilogy plus a brand new 4th chapter created specifically for this release. The tragedy? The original PS2 release was grindy as hell with repetitive dungeons. Last Recode fixes the pacing with boosted XP and movement speed, but the dungeon design is still visually samey. It released in 2017, right before Persona 5 dominated the conversation. It's playable on deck, and there's a cheat mode if you just want the story. Also, this predates Sword Art Online and the whole isekai boom by years. Chrono Cross: The Radical Dreamers Edition. Chrono Cross is a masterpiece that nobody wanted. As a sequel to Chrono Trigger, one of the most beloved JRPGs ever, it made the bold, franchise-killing choice to kill off the original cast off screen and undo their happy ending. Fans were livid. But as a standalone, it's an audio-visual triumph. Yasunori Mitsuda's soundtrack is frequently called the greatest video game score of all time. Celtic, Mediterranean, African influences, blending into something transcendent. The pre-rendered backgrounds are watercolor paintings. Mechanically, it eliminated random encounters, removed MP costs, and auto-healed your party after every fight. The focus shifted entirely to strategy over attrition. The field effects system is genius. The battlefield tracks the last 3 elements used: red, blue, green. Fill the field with one color, and you can cast massive summon spells. It requires turn order manipulation and planning in a way most RPGs don't demand. So why the tragedy? Twofold. Narratively, alienating trigger fans. Technically, the remaster launched in April 2022, running worse than the PS1 original. Stuttering frame rates, crashes, it was a disaster. Steam reviews tanked to mixed at 61%. But here's the thing, patches fixed it. On Steam Deck, if you enable high performance mode in the launcher, it runs at a locked 60 FPS. The game's reputation is still recovering, but it's playable on deck now. And it includes Radical Dreamers, the text adventure sequel that was previously Japan-exclusive satellite view content.
Grandia has the best turn-based combat system ever created, and I will die on this hill. The IP gauge is a timeline where characters and enemies race toward an action point. If you hit an enemy during their act phase, you trigger a counter, massive damage, and their turn gets canceled entirely. It transforms combat from menu selection into active timeline manipulation. The story is pure adventure. Justin isn't a brooding soldier or a chosen one. He's a kid who wants to be an adventurer like his dad. The game rewards exploration mechanically. Your stats gain experience just by discovering new locations. There's this scene where Justin reaches the end of the world, a massive wall everyone believes is the boundary of existence. He climbs it, and there's a whole new continent on the other side. It captures the spirit of discovery better than maybe any other RPG. Here's the tragedy. The HD remaster is technically flawed. The port introduced bugs the original didn't have. Sprite smoothing smears the pixel art. Audio desyncs in cutscenes. On Steam Deck, it's playable, but you need to force Proton GE as the compatibility tool, or the FMV cutscenes will crash the game. Without that fix, you'll hit a brick wall at specific story moments. Despite the technical jank, the core game is timeless. It's optimistic, heartwarming, and mechanically brilliant. If you can tolerate some tinkering on deck, it's worth it. This is the deep cut for Saga fans. Minstrel Song is a PS2 remake of the original Super NES Romancing Saga, and it features this distinct sketch motion art style where characters look like wooden marionettes. It's unsettling at first, then weirdly charming. The game is truly open world. You can recruit almost anyone and tackle content in any order from the start. The Glimmer system returns, characters learn techniques randomly mid-battle, but Minstrel Song adds vortexes, combo magic attacks where multiple mages synchronize spells. The strategic depth is absurd. Here's the killer: event rank. The more battles you fight, the stronger the world becomes. If you grind mindlessly, you can soft-lock yourself by making enemies too powerful to handle. It punishes the JRPG instinct to over-level and forces you to engage with the systems intentionally. Why'd it bomb? Saga is niche even in Japan, and this PS2 remake never left Japan until 2022. Western audiences had no context for it. The remaster is verified on deck and adds QOL features like speed-up and minimaps. You can even recruit the minstrel who narrates the story into your party, which is a hilarious meta-touch. If you want something obtuse, rewarding, and completely different from standard JRPGs, this is it.
Front Mission 2 Remake is a geopolitical mecha strategy game that never left Japan until 2024. Yeah, 2024. We waited over 25 years for this. It's deeper and more complex than the first game, featuring an action point system where every movement and attack costs AP. You're customizing Wanzers part by part. Legs, arms, torso, and destroying specific parts cripples enemies strategically. The story is set in the People's Republic of Alardesh, exploring themes of revolution, independence, and proxy wars. The script is massive, diving into political theory most RPGs wouldn't touch. There's an honor system where surrounding enemies unlocks new skills, encouraging aggressive positioning. The original PS1 version was plagued by absurd load times, like 10 to 15 seconds for every battle animation. The remake fixes this entirely. It's verified on Steam Deck, running smoothly with a diorama-style visual presentation that respects the original aesthetic while modernizing it. The tragedy is that Front Mission as a series has been dormant for so long that by the time this remake arrived, most people didn't even know it existed. It's essential for genre completionists and anyone who wants their mecha combat grounded in political realism instead of anime bombast.
IS-6, the Arc of Napishtim, introduced the Napishtim engine that powered Falcom's action games for a decade, but it's constantly overshadowed by Is Origin and Oath and Felghana, which refined the formula. That's unfair, because Napishtim is a blast. Fast, fluid hack and slash with Adol carrying 3 elemental swords, wind, fire, and lightning, that swap instantly for different combos. The combat has this hidden dash jump technique that's notoriously hard to pull off but required for secret items. Mastering it feels incredible. The game's short, 10 to 15 hours, but it's pure adrenaline the whole way. Adol washes ashore on the Canaan Islands and uncovers the mystery of the winged Eldine civilization. Straightforward, focused, no bloat. Why is it overlooked? Timing. It released in the mid-2000s when 3D action RPGs were exploding, and Is was still seen as this retro series for old-school PC gamers. The Konami PS2 port changed the sprites to 3D models, which fans hated. The Steam version restores the original PC assets and runs flawlessly on deck. Unlisted as playable, but it's perfect. If you want a short, tight action RPG that respects your time and just focuses on being fun, Is-6 is it.
Let's end with the big one. Tactics Ogre is the grandfather of isometric tactical RPGs. It predates Final Fantasy Tactics. Same creator, Yasumi Matsuno, but this is the more complex, morally ambiguous political drama. The story is based on the Yugoslav wars of the 1990s, dealing with ethnic cleansing, pragmatism, and the weight of leadership. The branching narrative forces impossible choices. The law path, for example, requires you to participate in a massacre of civilians to maintain loyalty to your liege. The game doesn't frame it as evil, it frames it as necessary. That moral complexity is rare. Reborn adds buff cards that spawn randomly on the battlefield. Grabbing them is crucial for attack or MP boosts, forcing aggressive play instead of defensive turtling. The Chariot Tarot system lets you rewind turns to correct mistakes or manipulate RNG, which is essential in a game with permadeath. The tragedy? It's lived in Final Fantasy Tactics Shadow for decades. FFT got the brand recognition, the marketing, the legacy. Tactics Ogre remained this cult secret despite being the more ambitious game. Reborn is the attempt to finally give it the spotlight. It's verified on deck with full voice acting in English and Japanese. The UI has been scaled for HD, making text readable on handheld screens. If you loved Fire Emblem Three Houses for the political drama, you owe it to yourself to play the game that invented that style.
And there you go. 15 PS1 and PS2 JRPGs you can play right now on Steam Deck that deserve way more attention. Some of these were buried by bad ports, some never made it west, and some just released at the absolute worst possible time. But they're all officially available now, most of them verified or playable on deck, and they're all worth your time. If you grabbed even one new game to try from this list, I'll call that a win. Drop a comment and let me know which one you're starting with. And hey, if you made it this far, you might as well hit that like button. It helps more than you'd think. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.